All right, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Let's continue the show. Once again, please take your seats. Okay, before we continue, two things. Number one, how about a big thank you to the Chicharo Club for a lovely meal. The pasta was fantastic, the roast beef phenomenal. And number two, a big shout out once again to our great band leader, Mr. Ian Smith. Over there, one more time for Ian Smith. I'm surprised, Tori, he played Stevie Wonder, and I thought we got a Paul Schaefer in the house here. He did a terrific job.
Oh yeah.
So as we wrap up our dinner service, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a moment to thank some incredible sponsors for the evening who helped us along the way for this year's Hall of Fame Gala. And we start off with, Tori?
Yeah, we are going to start off with Barron Rings. The entire Windsor-Essex County Sports Hall of Fame Board would like to thank Barron Championship Rings for providing the stunning rings and the pendants for our 2025 Hall of Fame inductees. They work with some of the top sports teams in Windsor. You know that if you've seen any ring or pendant, you know where it's coming from. It's always Barron. They've got amazing designs for all the big wins. If you want to learn more about what they do, you can check out their website. It's www.barronrings.com, and we thank them hugely.
Absolutely, and I have 3 with the Ravens, so their product is stellar. I may come over there later on. We have another sponsor we'd like to thank, and speaking on behalf of the entire WECSHOF board, we'd like to acknowledge and thank the Trophy Boys who made the outstanding trophies and plaques for our honorable inductees and the Bob Turner Award. So a big thank you to the Trophy Boys for helping us out with the awards. Now, the Trophy Boys have an extensive range of services and products they provide, and you can check it out at thetrophyboys.com. So an amazing night like this wouldn't be possible without Trophy Boys and Barron Rings. So thank you very much.
Yeah. All right, so we are going to get started on the awards portion of the night. And to kick it off, we are going to be honoring the WECSA Athletes of the Year, the Team of the Year, and also the Bob Turner Award winner. And then finally, we will be honoring all 10 of our inductees, beginning with the athletes and ending with those Builders Awards. So to begin, we are going to kick things off with the WECSA Student Athlete of the Year Award.
Absolutely. Let's turn the clock back to 2002, and that's when the high school athletic organizations in Windsor and Essex merged to become the Windsor-Essex County Secondary Schools Athletic Association. This award was revised and expanded with top male and female winners named in both large and small division schools in Windsor and Essex County. Beginning last year, and with the help of 2 past inductees, that is O.J. Atogwe and Stephen Ademolo, the WECSA Student Athlete of the Year Award is proudly provided by the Windsor-Essex County Sports Hall of Fame. This year we had 4 recipients, and they were provided with a $2,500 post-secondary bursary. Now, these recipients are truly student athletes, as the criteria for each of them is based on 50% of their grades and 50% of their athletic accomplishments. And we would like to congratulate them right now. So here's a list of the 2025 Student Athletes of the Year. Nash Drager of Essex. Yasmin Kadri, Holy Names. Rachel Wilby, Essex. And Kaylin Laporte of Holy Names. Tonight we are proud to be joined by Rachel Wilby and her family, as well as Kaylin Laporte's family, to represent their son. Unfortunately, Nash and his family were unable to attend, and due to the Lancers and Algoma game, Yasmin Kadri and her family is unable to attend, but we congratulate them nonetheless, and we thank you for those who were able to join us tonight, and congratulations once again to the Student Athletes of the Year for their outstanding achievements. Definitely well deserved. And here's one thing, Tori, we have individual efforts, but when you put those individuals together, it makes a team, does it not?
It absolutely does, and that is why we are moving on to the Team of the Year. We are talking about the Windsor Selects baseball team. The Selects were formed in 1983 as an all-star collection of the best baseball talent in our area. Drawn from 5 major teams of South Windsor, Riverside, the Walker home sites, AKO, and Micmacs, all playing in the Micmac Junior League. Rather than have 5 teams traveling to qualify for the Canadian Nationals, the goal was to send one powerhouse lineup, and that's exactly what they did. The result has been more than 10 national titles achieved at either the midget, juvenile, or junior level of play. The Selects program now offers play at 6 different age levels in the Canadian Premier League. The Windsor Selects program has seen more than 200 players receive athletic scholarships to play at the post-secondary level. In addition, 29 players have been drafted to the major league teams, with 22 of them actually signing pro contracts. The success and staying power of the Windsor Selects have undoubtedly earned them a spot in the Windsor-Essex County Sports Hall of Fame. Don't just take our word for it. Let's hear from the members of the team to tell us why. We'll just move on.
We'll just go into the next part.
Yeah.
Just apologize for it. We'll give it.
Yeah. A little bit of technical difficulties. We're gonna run it back.
As they take care of business, a quick sports update. Andy Kiss will be proud to hear that the Women's Saints have defeated Niagara tonight by a couple of points. They've done a terrific job, and I'll do my best to get the Windsor and Algoma updates very soon. So again, we apologize for the technical difficulties, but again, Team of the Year, definitely honorable. Selects. They've started in 1983. That is 42 years, 2 years after WECSHOF was inducted. And when you see those players being drafted in the MLB, you know there's a lot of pride, and there's also Windsor pride too when it comes to those players, no doubt about it. So we have a little bit of some difficulties right now, but we have a couple of players. There's a party everywhere tonight, folks. I don't know what was louder, that or the reception next door.
Yeah, we are asking that if you do hear the cha-cha slide coming from the wedding next door, don't get up. Stay in your seats. Cupid Shuffle, also not allowed right now. But they're having a great time over there.
You know, I called the Lancers game yesterday. My voice is still a little bit low. I was thinking of bringing the bullhorn here because I had a feeling something like this was going to happen, but it's okay. It's all right. There we go, ladies and gentlemen.
The Windsor Selects came about during the 70s, early 80s. Micmac clubs ran a very good junior baseball league in the city. And 5 of those junior teams would travel to the Niagara area to compete to play in the national championships. And it was costing each one of the groups a lot of money to do this. So we got together and says, why don't we form one team? All of us will join together and support it financially. And from that point on, the Windsor Selects will become to be as it is known today. Well, South Windsor had a team, Riverside had a team, Marco Homesites had a team, the Micmacs had a team, AKO had a team. And from those 5 teams, the talent kind of went to the Windsor Selects and formed what we call a powerhouse back then.
In 1983, as Bernie mentioned, the group all come together. Father Colin was the head coach. The next year, we got Bobby Marchand to come and help, and we won the Canadian that year here as the host team. A couple years later, Richard Solomon joined our organization as a coach, and he took over from Father Colin and the under-18s. And through the years, we had all kinds of people come and coach who were ex-players. We got help from people like Joe Siddle came and helped later on. And we went through a progression of Premier League and then expanding the number of teams. And the group now are people who have taken it in a different direction, expanded it.
Throughout the years, we've sent over 200 kids to college on different scholarships at different levels of whether it's a junior college or a major college, but we're proud of we can send kids every year. We've had 29 players drafted into the Major League Baseball draft. 22 have signed, and 3 of them have actually made the major leagues. Joe Siddle with the Montreal Expos, Stubby Clapp with the St. Louis Cardinals, and Jacob Robson with the Detroit Tigers.
So currently the Windsor Selects have 6 teams that play in the Canadian Premier Baseball League. We start at the 13U age group, and we have 2 14s, a 15, 16, and 18U. So we currently have 6 teams. There's also the 21 and under junior selects, which is made up of college baseball players that come home. The team competes in the Canadian Premier Baseball League, which has 12 franchises from Windsor to Ottawa. Highly competitive league. The league performs with, the highest entity, a lot of Team Canada kids. Right now, currently, we have 16 kids graduating. 15 of them have committed to U.S. schools on scholarship, which is fantastic for a graduating year. We have some really promising kids coming up. And from the development side, we're developing high-end baseball players. We're adapting to the analytics of the game and the way it's changed over the last 50 years. So there's been a lot of learning and learning curves, but right now we've got some young kids that are coming back to coach with us, which is fantastic for former select players that are graduating. And we want to continue to grow the organization and, have the tradition of Southern Ontario and make elite baseball players and premier baseball players.
There we go. Okay. There we go. Accepting the Team of the Year award from the Windsor Selects, please welcome Chris Soulier and Aaron Howell. And presenting them was Chuck Smith, of course, and Godfrey Janice. We did it, guys. We got there.
And to think I was this close for pulling out the bullhorn. I'm going to go old school here for a second. But we got our next prestigious award coming up, and that is the Bob Turner Award. And it's a special award given to a member of the Windsor Essex community who, like Mr. Turner, provided many years of dedicated service to athletics, promoting participation, continuous improvement, and the all-around development and well-being of athletes. This is the third year in a row that we are presenting the Bob Turner Award, and we couldn't think of anyone better to receive this honor than Mr. Morgan Clark. Let me run down the great accolades of Mr. Clark. He has served as a track and field starter for 43 years. He was an assistant coach with the Windsor Lancers football team for 29 years and spent 10 years as a basketball and football referee. And he also coached football at the high school level and for the AKO Fratmen. Morgan Clark, no doubt, has been a household name for all the students he has mentored along the way. But let's hear what Mr. Clark and his daughter Shayna have to say about an outstanding career. Morgan Clark.
I was a multi-athlete growing up.
Well, my dad has been a multi-athlete his whole life since grade school, all through high school. Grade school, of course, doing whatever sports were ever there for him. High school, loved track and field, basketball, even was a goalie at one point, I think in grade 9 and 10. And then track and field, swimming, and actually held many records during that time at Patterson, which I've heard many of the glory days growing up. At Patterson, there was Al Newman and Dawson, which were the primary coaches there that truly influenced Dad. And over the years, when he went to Western, was Matris as well. And then later in life, when he was in Sarnia playing football, was Frank Filchuk as well.
I declined to go to Michigan.
How my dad declined going to Michigan, he was good friends with Zeno Cars growing up playing football. And Zeno had just come over there, having been talked to as well to go to Michigan. And he said, Morgan, all they do is football all the time. You know, you don't want to go and do that. And then later decided to go to the University of Western.
I played football in CFL. I was at BC, Toronto, and Calgary.
Toronto Argonauts actually held the rights for Dad. And but he did start with Calgary, played there several years, then did go back and play for Toronto and BC. Did anything he could to keep playing, which now over the years has taken a toll, but I know through speaking with him over the years about his time there, he'd not change anything for the world. He'd go back and do it again. My dad did have the opportunity to play for the Houston Oilers, but did decline to go there as he was playing in Sarnia League with Frank, and Frank was making the move there and offered that my dad should go with him. At that time, just for the years of the physical abuse of the sport, we just eventually said it was time to call it an end at that time and finish the rest of his education and his career that way.
I was a starter in track and field.
My dad was a starter for actually over 62 years. He started the Kennedy Relays. It gave us a thrill always to come down to the university or wherever he was starting to see some of the meets, be it was for the University of Windsor or the Pan Am Games or any qualifying. But one story in particular that always resonates with me is back in the day, Ben Johnson, he started prior to his Olympic debut, and he jump-started, and Dad nicely said, my gun jammed. So we had to restart that race again to help Ben out.
I coached football with Judo Fracas.
Dad has been a coach for the University of Windsor Lancers in football for 29 years. Him and Gina Fracas started together back in the day. Great memories, of course, with the Fracas family that Clark's Fracas family has come together in many years, and I have wonderful memories of that. We're happy and honored to be known as Morgan Clark's children. Knowing how well received my dad was in the community, and there's not a day really truly even now that myself and family can't go somewhere without knowing that we're associated with him for everything he's done in his own personal growth as an athlete, as a volunteer, his years of service, and as a coach and a mentor. And we still see those players and people call and come to our house still to today. So it's been an honor to support him all these years with it.
Now, unfortunately, Morgan was unable to attend the gala this evening, but we honor him tonight and we wish him all the best. Presenting the Bob Turner Award from our board of directors, once again, our chairperson of the board, Chuck Smith, Bob Turner's wife, Carol, and his daughter, Susan Vickers, to present the award to Mr. Clark's daughter, Shayna Carey, and his son, Hudson, who both accept the award on his behalf. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bob Turner Award winner of 2025, Morgan Clark. Thank you, everybody. Let's get started with the 2025 Sports Hall of Fame inductees. As you know, we have 10 of them this year, and you're going to hear their stories and what they've done for the game and what they're going to do for the future of this game, now being part of the class of 2025. And get us underway with our first award recipient, here's Tori Ruvers.
Noelle Montcalm starred at the University of Windsor during her track years for 5 years as a talented and tenacious hurdler. She helped lead the Lancers to back-to-back CIS national championships in 2010 and 2011. Her personal accolades were nothing short of impressive, collecting 16 individual CIS medals and 17 OUA medals along the way. As her collegiate career approached the finish line, she moved on to represent Team Canada at 2 Summer Olympics in 2016 and 2021, as well as 2 Commonwealth Games and 2 World Championships. Noelle might have hung up her cleats in 2022, but let's hear what she has to say about being inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame.
We didn't have a track at St. Joe's at that time. I went up to Coach Boots kind of shyly and naively and told him I forgot my shoes that day. And he sent me out the next day to do a training run with the senior girls. He really was one of the first coaches that believed in me and my abilities, despite, you know, that kind of mistake that I made, and then not to forget my shoes again. You know, as I went through my sporting career, my running journey was my parents, always there from day one. Supporting me to believe in myself again, and just surrounding myself with those people that helped me to believe in myself. One of my most influential coaches for all of my career was Don Garrett. He was somebody who was always in my corner. I'm so thankful for, you know, the support that he's provided to me the encouragement, the wisdom, just being there. So St. Joseph's in Windsor was a huge community for me, coming, just starting in the running. A lot of teammates, one of them former St. Joe's Laser, Jamie Ajete Nelson, former inductee into the Windsor Essex County Sports Hall of Fame as well, and I owe a lot of thanks to him as well. Even though running's an individual sport, and that's why I gravitated toward it, I could see with the University of Windsor program how much of a team sport it was, and it was really thanks to Dennis Farrell for showing us that and letting us be a part of that and believing in that. I would obviously be remiss to not mention my partner Sean, who's been, with me for most of the half of my life, just supporting me and encouraging me and giving me the opportunity to be the person that I am on the track and off the track, and allowing me the opportunity to represent my country. The 2016 Rio Olympics were really the icing on the cake. After competing in the 400 hurdles, I was told that I wasn't going to race in the relay final, but I warmed up anyways with the other girls, and my coach, Don Gary, got to witness the head coach of that Canadian team kind of put his arm around me on the warm-up track and kind of give me the call that I was actually going to be racing in that final. In that relay race, we ended up finishing 4th, and another amazing memory from that time is the girls and I coming up from the track after the race to kind of the concourse behind the track and meeting all of our friends and taking just a massive photo with all our family and friends that were there to support us. So I also was fortunate enough to represent Canada at multiple championships. I competed at the North American, Central American, Caribbean Championships, again in the 400 meter hurdles, the Commonwealth Games, 2 World Championships. So I was also fortunate to make my second Olympic Games, the 2021 Olympics in Tokyo. I ran quite well, in Tokyo, but didn't get to make the second round in my event. But for some reason, I decided to go back to my bag, my phone, and FaceTime Sean and FaceTime Donnie, and it ended up being not so much a mistake, but I didn't realize how many people were on my street supporting me, having a watch party for that event, and I became so emotional. The news was there, they interviewed me through the phone, and it was such an incredible experience. I also had, over the course of my career, a huge support team in the way of physiotherapy. Steve Radovich in my early days as a Lancer, Mary Brannigan, Jen Killen as my massage and physiotherapist, and Dave Stout as well while I was at the university. And being inducted into the Windsor Essex County Sports Hall of Fame it's funny. I remember when photos were hung in Devonshire Mall, and I would walk, through the mall with my parents and say, in my early days, one day I'm going to be up on that wall, and it's kind of a full circle moment to be recognized and honored to be among some of the greats in our city, and it really is an honor just to be represented and acknowledged, and I do really gratefully appreciate it.
Presenting Noelle Montcalm with her Windsor Essex County Sports Hall of Fame Award is our board member and treasurer, Anthony Panicia.
Now from the hurdles to the track, another standout track and fielder. Her name is Melissa Bishop-Nriagu. Melissa won Pan Am gold and flirted with the Olympic podium during her prime as Canada's premier female 800-meter runner. A multi-sport athlete in high school, she blossomed as a runner during her time with the University of Windsor Lancers and its legendary coach, Dennis Farrell, who is also a WECSHOF inductee in the class of 2012. Winning multiple gold medals in the 600 and 1,000 meters at the CIS Championship, qualified her for 3 Olympic Games appearances. Narrowly missing a bronze medal in the 2016 Rio Olympic Games, Melissa finished 4th and set a Canadian national record in the process at 1 minute 57 seconds and 2/10. But let's slow things down. Let's take a look at the journey, and that brought Melissa to her great success and prominence, cementing her name in the Windsor Essex County Sports Hall of Fame. Have a look at this tape.
I really do give credit to my family that they were able to put us in so many sports, allow us to experience so many things. On the track team, I was a multi-gold medalist at OFSA. You know, my first OFSA experience actually was OFSA cross country, which I would never call myself a cross country runner, but in grade 9 we went to OFSA and I finished 2nd, and that was something that I didn't know was possible, and I don't think my dad and a coach of ours, Dennis Brash, really expected. So I asked my parents if I could join this track and field club called the Ottawa Lions, and it's a 2-hour drive. And so for the next 5 years, they committed to driving me back and forth to Ottawa 3 times a week. In grade 12, right around the end of the first semester, we decided, my parents and I, that it would be best if I actually moved to Ottawa, forego my eligibility at OFSA, and try and really go after track and field, like make it a focus. When I was ready to finish my first year of university at the University of Ottawa, I had actually put out applications to universities all across Ontario and in Canada. And the next thing you know, Dennis is calling me up and he says, Melissa, I'd love to have you down for a visit. At the University of Windsor, I had a lot of success. Our team and myself were multi-CIS champions. So Dennis is the largest reason why I can call myself a 3-time Olympian. Getting ready to go to grad school in the fall of 2011, and Dennis sat me down and he said, Bish, I think we need to defer grad school, and I think we need to focus on making the Olympic team. My support team as a whole, Mary Brannigan, my physio, Jen Killen, my massage therapist, I mean, these women have been a part of my team since the very beginning. We ended up qualifying for our first Olympic team in 2012. So naively, I went into the Olympics thinking, I can make the final, no problem. And I didn't end up getting out of the first round. And so for the next 4 years, Dennis and I, we threw everything we had at training. 2015, I want to call it my breakthrough year. With Dennis's help and my sports like Penny, we ended up winning the Pan Am Games in Toronto, and being a Canadian, winning an international race at home is just incredible. It's a feeling I can't describe. I put myself in my first Olympic final at the 2016 Games, and I remember standing on the start line, being so in check that my nerves were more excitement. I can't remember actually feeling nervous. I just felt confident that this was going to happen for us. And I finished 4th by thousandths of a second. This is a one-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You don't get to do that again. He was obviously upset too, and I was upset, but he was very proud in the way that I raced. And now that I can look back on that race, I too am very proud with how I raced. I ran another Canadian record.
This is what we worked for a decade, and to be that close, this is tough.
And so Dennis and I and my sports like Penny and our team, we worked really hard to overcome that race, and we did. We did overcome. The next year in 2017, we actually ran the Canadian record again, and it still stands to this day. And so in 2018, we welcomed our first daughter, Corinne. There was another being in my house that I had to care for now, all while chasing a 2020 Olympic berth. I was able to come back and make my 3rd Olympic team as a mom. After Dennis passed, I had to find a new coach, and his name was Trent Stellingworth, and he's based out of Victoria, British Columbia. With Trent's help, we were able to make the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. The only reason we could make it work is because of Donnie Garrett, somebody else I really want to thank. Donnie's a very, very good coach, very good technical coach. We were about 7 days out of the women's 800 meter first round at the Tokyo 20 Olympics, and I tore my hamstring pretty badly. I competed injured, knowing that I wasn't at my best, but I still competed. And at the end of the day, I'm so happy that I was able to put myself on the line and be a representation of my country and wear that Canadian flag on my chest very proudly. Having a family made me realize that, you know, not getting a medal is not actually that big of a deal. Life goes on, you're going to be okay. You have the most, in my opinion, I have a beautiful life. I have a beautiful family, and that's what gives me the energy that I need. I am so honored to be inducted into the Windsor Essex County Hall of Fame. This is something that, you know, you don't think of when you're competing, the impact that you have on the next generation or your communities, but you made me one of your own when I came here and I decided to be a member of the University of Windsor track and field team. I also became a lifelong resident of Windsor Essex, and I'm so proud and thankful.
Welcoming Melissa to the Windsor Essex County Sports Hall of Fame is our board member, Linda Stout. Ladies and gentlemen, Melissa Bishop-Nriagu.
All right. Moving along. Tyrone Crawford. Yeah, I had a feeling. Tyrone Crawford and his athletic talents were well known in the Windsor area long before he was an NFL draft selection of the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah. As a three-sport star at Catholic Central Secondary School, Crawford was always in beast mode, whether the sport was basketball, football, or track and field. After 2 successful seasons at Boise State, Crawford was a third-round pick in the 2012 draft, the launching point for an impressive 9-year NFL career with the Cowboys. By 2016, he was a starter on the defensive line for Dallas, having recently signed a $45 million 5-year contract that made him the highest-paid Canadian player in the NFL. Yeah. Injuries limited him in subsequent seasons and led to his retirement in 2021 with some incredibly impressive career stats. He played in 112 NFL games, recording 194 tackles and 25 sacks. Those accomplishments are just the tip of the iceberg for Tyrone, and I will let him tell you more about his induction into the Windsor Essex County Hall of Fame tonight.
You know, thankfully, you know, my mom pushed me and my brother into sports, and we did multiple sports. You know, she didn't want us to have a lot of free time, and you know, the first sport I really remember flourishing in is probably baseball, and just kind of loving that, t-ball, and then into basketball camps, Core City Hoops camps, and with Coach Cusimano, and you know, going further into high school and getting into football, that's just kind of how you know, that path went. You know, my mom, obviously she pushed me, I know, from the youngest of ages, and she pushed me hard in sport. So, you know, I appreciate her for that. My brother, a grinder, a pusher, a motivator, you know, still to this day, I look up to him. Amazing coaches, you know, along the way, from Coach Cusimano to Coach Curry, you know, Coach Walls, Coach George, you know, just to name a few in high school, and then on to college, you know, Coach Rikowski, was my D-line coach at Boise State. You know, I got my junior college coaches, Bolton and Chudy, and, you know, into the NFL. You know, one of my longest standing coaches, obviously, you know, my head coach is Jason Garrett, but one of my longest standing coaches, a coach that I had, you know, for the majority of my career was Rod Marinelli. To be a provincial champion, you know, in track and in basketball, it's an accomplishment, and it's one of my, biggest championships. Obviously, no Super Bowl, so it's one of my biggest championships, in my life. So I'm so appreciative of that, and also share that with guys that will never forget it. So I love that moment, and I love the track moments too. But the basketball one is definitely memorable, and I'll never forget it. Because I played outside linebacker in high school, because Coach Curry, made me play running back and quarterback, I knew different things. I knew different skills that I needed to know, to help me lock in and do the best I can at the D-line position and all across it, throughout the rest of my career. So I thank God every day that, he had me go from high school straight to Bakersfield College. I met some amazing people, got coached by some amazing coaches, met my wife. I didn't play a lot of D-line play in high school, so that decision ultimately was the best decision I could have made for my path. It was definitely a great step, a stepping stone to achieve the goal that I ultimately wanted to achieve. I definitely joined Mike Atkinson, my former teammate, now business partner and great friend at Boise State. We both were thinking CFL. We wanted to go and play the CFL for sure, and the NFL. Hey, if it happens, it happens. But luckily we worked our butt off and we both went pro. I went to the Dallas Cowboys and he went to the Ticats and had an amazing career. And, I did a 9-year stint over at the Cowboys. And then to go on and, not know that I was going to be drafted by the Cowboys in the 3rd round. I only had one conversation with the D-line coach, Leon Lett. And that was at the Combine. So, to be able to get drafted by them, get a phone call from, Jerry Jones and, the Dallas Cowboys that day, was surreal, to be surrounded by my family and friends, and in that moment was surreal. That was one of the bigger surprises, I guess, in my career, when my teammates voted me as captain. And I mean, this is captain of the Dallas Cowboys, so obviously, I was a little taken back, but I guess maybe if I had to pinpoint what it was that made my teammates write my name down. To be captain and defensive captain, I think that is, it would probably just be, the camaraderie. I always try to bring guys together, and that's what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting to tell you guys about my family because they're my pride and joy. I love them, with all my heart. My wife, my beautiful wife, Kelsey Crawford, and I thank her every day. And if I don't, I thank you, babe, every day, for what you do for us. And we have 4 beautiful baby girls. Mia, Callie, Ellie, and Emmy. They're beautiful and they're amazing. They're our pride and joy, and we're so blessed to be able to call them our daughters. And to my brother and his family, to my sister-in-law and her family, and to just all of our family, all of my mom, my grandma. I love all you guys, all of our friends. Thank you guys so much for always staying close-knit and keeping us on your mind and caring for us. You guys are the best. We love y'all. To be able to solidify myself inside of the walls of a Hall of Fame that is in a place of where I'm from, it's a huge honor. And so I thank you guys. I thank you guys for having me. I thank you guys for inducting me. And yes, this will be something that I cherish for the rest of my life. So I appreciate y'all. Love y'all. I love the city. Can't wait to celebrate. Let's go, man. Let's go.
Joining us is WECSHOF board member Pete Cusimano to help us welcome Tyrone into the Windsor Essex County Sports Hall of Fame.
It's interesting. They usually say, Tori, life is all about survival and it's a fight to the finish. And there is one boxer in the Windsor Essex County Sports Hall of Fame this year that's going to make a name in the class of 2025. And we're talking about our next inductee, Kara Rowe. You know, Kara enjoyed success in many sports before landing a knockout punch in the boxing ring. She grew up in Sudbury, Ontario, and she excelled in basketball, volleyball, track and field, tennis, and badminton, earning MVP status in several and city championships in track and tennis. She chose volleyball as a post-secondary pursuit, and that's what drew her to Southern Ontario, where she captained the Windsor Lancers. Now, fate intervened in her sophomore year when she shared a boyfriend's interest in learning how to box. A quick study in the Windsor Boxing Club, the then 26-year-old Rowe turned professional in 2002 and won her lightweight debut that September at the former place of the Pistons, the Palace of Auburn Hills. Her length and power carried her to 2 Women's International Boxing Association titles. And earlier this year, her 18-0 undefeated career, the record rather, was recognized with an induction into the International Women's Boxing Hall of Fame. So she's getting 2 Hall of Fame honors in 2025. That's not bad. But would you believe it? She went from the ring to the radio. She was heard on AM 800. She was heard at AM 580. You can still hear her in various boxing events in the Rose City. So every time you hear the voice of Kara Rowe, you know you're in great hands with the card that night. Without question, her accomplishments speak for themselves. But let's hear all about the road of Rowe.
But then in elementary school, you get into basketball and volleyball and track. And then high school, I played actually 8 sports a year. I can remember at 3:01, I start my first practice and I would get home at 9:01 at night. So I had applied to 3 different places and I went to Windsor and the best time of my life. I thought the first year I'll play volleyball, the second year I'll play basketball, and then the next couple of years I'll decide what I liked best. But just first year, I just fell in love with volleyball, the team, the St. Denis Center, and I became the captain in my 4th year. The summer in preparation for tryouts, I trained with the basketball girls and I trained with the volleyball girls, and I just decided, you know what, I'm gonna stay with volleyball. In my first year university, my boyfriend was playing for the Windsor Spitfires, and he signed with the Florida Panthers. And I told him, I said, listen, DJ Smith, Adam Young, your teammates are all taking boxing, and they fight on the ice, and they're tremendous, right? They're enforcers. You need to do this. Like, we need to do this in the summer. I fell in love with boxing. It's a chess match, and it's like, if I do this, they do this, you do this. Like, there's so much strategy behind it. It was the most challenging mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually that you could ever go through in terms of a workout and a sport. And I just said, I want to take boxing full time, and then I went from volleyball and boxing full time. In boxing, I started at Border City Boxing Club, and I was introduced to Chad Weigel, and he was my first coach, and he was tremendous. I feel so grateful that he was my first coach. So, I mean, I started out with the best, which was pretty fantastic. And one of my friends from here who was boxing as well, Donna Canty, the sister of Josh Canty, who owns Border City Boxing, Josh and Donna brought me to my last tournament here, the Brampton Cup, and I won it very quickly. And then she said, come to Detroit. It's time for you to go to Detroit, because that was really the avenue to turn pro. And so I went over to Kronk Gym. And it's interesting for me now looking back, like, I didn't realize the legacy that Kronk had. I didn't know who Tommy Hearns was. I didn't know Emmanuel Stewart. I didn't know a lot of these people associated with the boxing greats, and, became a champion out of Kronk. Then we went to Ringside, which was a national, basically international tournament. And my first draw was the girl that was #1 in the world. And I went in there and I beat her. And it felt like, wow, this is like amazing for my step forward in my progress and letting me know where I was. And so at that point forward, I turned pro. And in my pro career, I'm 18-0. I won my international, my continental title in '04. And then I had to fight Tracy Bird. And the reason I bring her name up is because her brother was a heavyweight champion, Chris Bird. And he was the world heavyweight champion, and he's working her corner, and this is such a big deal. When I won that title, that was a really big deal. A year after that, I fought for the world title. And again, it was another bizarre scenario where I was fighting a girl, and she was tremendous. And her corner was Michael Moore, who was another famous heavyweight champion. And beating her was a big deal. So I bartended downtown Windsor. Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, I would teach CPR and first aid on the weekends so that I could have Monday through Friday to train. So when I won the national championship, that's when Emmanuel Stewart came and handed me my jacket. And I remember just feeling like that was better than a world title. But when I got the call for Windsor, I was so happy because I love Windsor so much. People don't realize, like, I brag about Windsor all the time, and I've seen, you know, the Hall of Fame pictures when I'm at the Aquatic Center bringing my kids there, and there's been so many times that I've seen that and be like, I want to be there, I want to be up on that wall, I want to represent the city. Just to be a part of the legacy of what people have done here out of Windsor. Like, people have gone pro in all different sports, people have been representing us in the Olympics in all different sports, so I'm just like, I'm crazy proud, and I love Windsor, and this is like an award for me, but I feel like if I can do anything to give back to Windsor, I want to be a part of that, and that feels like this, if I can inspire anyone else.
Welcoming Kara to the Windsor Essex County Sports Hall of Fame, one of our board members, Nick Stein. Ladies and gentlemen, Kara Rowe.
Moving on along, Jordan Steen pinned down just about every championship up for grabs when he was wrestling for Concordia University and worked his way up to compete on the largest stage in the world. He was an unstoppable force on the mat, making a name for himself and skyrocketing his career in the process. He won a bronze medal representing Team Canada in freestyle wrestling at the 2020 Commonwealth Games and took his talents to the Olympic stage at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, finishing 10th overall. Jordan was blessed to have some incredible inspiration right at home. Competing at the Olympics, completed a rather impressive family hat trick. His mother, Andrea Steen, reached the semifinals in the 400-meter hurdles at the 1984 Olympics. And his dad, Dave Steen, won a bronze medal in the decathlon at the 84 Olympics and represented Canada again in Seoul in 1988. With Jordan's induction into the Hall, Andrea, who was inducted in 1995, this makes them the first ever mother-son duo to be in the Windsor Essex County Sports Hall of Fame. Amazing. It's amazing. But we are going to hear all about Jordan's journey from the man himself.
I remember I played every sport. I was trying to find something I really enjoyed. I ended up kind of liking like MMA. I remember back in high school I was doing a little bit of like kickboxing and jiu-jitsu and boxing, and then I started wrestling a bit, and then I really kind of fell in love with it. So St. Anne's didn't have a program at the time when I was there, so they let me, the principal actually, he let me go to Le Sueur and train under David Tremblay Sr. My father, he medaled in '88 at Seoul. He took bronze in the decathlon, and then also my mom ran, she ran the 400-meter hurdles in '84 in LA. So that now, looking back on it, it's amazing. Like going through the process, I was able to pick their brain all the time about sport and about, you know, high-level competition, how to prepare, nutrition, everything. Obviously, my two coaches there would be David Zilberman. He was my coach in Montreal, so him and his dad, Victor Zilberman, have the club in Montreal. They do the Concordia team. They also do, it's technically a national training center. During the COVID period, like my girlfriend, who's the wife now, she moved in. She was awesome because it was COVID, so she probably cooked all my meals, made everything easy for me. So I would say like having those people in my life was probably like, it's without them, I mean, I don't know if I would have been able to do it. So I joined the Concordia wrestling team. I won my very first CIS, I think, and then I remember I knew my Dave Tremblay Jr., he had won 5 in a row, so I really wanted to try to replicate that. So I think I won my first 2 and then made a really dumb mistake in the 3rd year and ended up losing the last couple seconds. So I was able to win 4 out of 5 U Sport titles, which was awesome for me. So I've been to the University Games, the Commonwealth Games, and Pan American Games. So the way it works is every continent has their continental qualifier. So for us, it's the Pan Americans. I needed to take top 2. So that was my match to go into the finals. And I had one move that I was really good at, where if I took somebody down, I just crossed their legs and I had to roll them like 10 times. So I did that to everybody I wrestled. And then in the finals, I didn't even bother wrestling the finals because I'd already qualified. So just shook hands with the guys, I pulled out and they gave me a silver. So I was already qualified, I punched my ticket. The organizer even actually asked my dad to go like present the medals. Olympics comes, I pull my first round, I pull the youngest American world champion, multiple-time world champion, Olympic champion. I ended up losing that match. But luckily for me, the way wrestling works is if he makes it to the finals, I get pulled back in so I can wrestle for bronze. He makes it back to the finals, so I get pulled back in. And then I ended up wrestling a guy from Italy who's actually a Cuban guy. Match is going pretty good. I mean, I'm down. I think I was down 4-0, and there's like 13 seconds left to go. I ended up catching him with something, and I threw him. So if you take somebody and you throw him feet to back, right, you get 4 points. So in the last 13 seconds, I was as high as I could be. I'm up. I'm like, okay, I'm winning. I'm just going to run away for the next 13 seconds, and I'm going to be able to go to the bronze medal. Well, in wrestling, you can kind of like protest the call. So they protest the call. They get a panel of judges over, and I guess they were saying that it just wasn't enough to determine whether it was a 4 or a 2. So they ended up losing the call on that one. So I was right there, last 13 seconds, I thought I had it. And then, call got reversed, but that's wrestling, that's what happens, right? Getting inducted into the same Sports Hall of Fame as my mom, which is something that kind of is, it's super cool to me, because now it's like I get to share that with them. And obviously, like, I get to come here, and this is where I grew up, I was born. I know I went to Montreal, but I knew I was coming back here. I'm back here full time, raising a family here, so this is always my home. So to get inducted along with my mom is, it's something that's really special to me. I think it's special to them too, which is makes it all the better.
We're once again going to ask Pete Cusimano to come up and help us welcome Jordan Steen into the Windsor Essex County Sports Hall of Fame.
Next up, Tori, if you look at the WECSHOF logo, there's a lot of black and gold, and we're pleased to announce for another year in a row, we're inducting an alumni of the blue and gold, and that is Korissa Williams. Always making an incredible impact on both ends of the court. The 5'9" guard would regularly score in double figures and would be a lockdown defender against an opposing star. Success on the hardwood floor began in high school, where Williams played for Hall of Fame coach Dom Salvaggio at General Amherst. Just wait till you hear what happens next. She then made her name known as one of the standout stars and mainstay in the backcourt for the Windsor Lancers. Under the guidance of Chantel Valet, who was inducted last year, incidentally, they went on a record-tying 5-year run as national champions from 2010 to 2015. And it's safe to say that Korissa ended her high school and university careers so highly decorated with a lot of personal and team awards. But it did not end there. In 2020, Korissa, along with former Windsor teammate Maya Marie Langlois, another inductee from a year ago, and Jessica Clemenson were named to the CIS Top 100 Players of the Century. Let's hear from the Windsor Lancer legend that is Korissa Williams.
My family came to Canada in 1989, so they were more focused on family and work, and I never really was introduced to basketball until Victor-Nriagu came into my life. He was my grade 4 teacher at one point. Ultimately, I wouldn't be here if he didn't show that interest in me. Also, I have to thank my mom and my sister and my family, who are always there trying to support me in my basketball dreams. And my dad, he was a big part. After every game, he asked me, why didn't I shoot the three? Why didn't I shoot the three? He believed that I still, till like the last game I played, could be a shooter. I started playing for the Amherstburg Divas, and that team was ran by Frank Palumbo, Paul Levac, when I started playing Valiant, bringing me all the way to Dom Salvaggio in high school. And this is even before I got to, the Chantel LA, the Tom Fosters, the Josh Neiman's. Like, these men were huge influences for me. They played a big part in this frizzy-haired, curly-haired kid shooting on her own basket, and they showed patience and support. Playing on General Amherst was it was more of a social thing for me. I felt like I was part of a team. I had friends on the team. We got to travel all over the place. I couldn't tell you what the score was. I couldn't tell you how I played. I couldn't even tell you who was on the court or who we were playing, but I remember looking at Dom, and that guy always red in the face, screaming, yelling, passionate. And I remember looking at his face, and it was just like red, and he was teary-eyed, and it was one of the most impactful moments, because I could only imagine as a coach how proud he was of his team. First year that Maya played her first game with the University of Windsor, I remember being in that atmosphere and being like, that looks great, like she's doing great, it's the University of Windsor, what's the problem? So I joined University of Windsor, I got accepted, and then I more or less just walked on the team as in an open tryout. 5 national championships is an accomplishment at the University of Windsor. Chantel does a lot of good things, but she's a great recruiter. She knows how to create a vision, lead a team, and get everybody to buy into this plan. My dad passed away in 2019, and looking back, I remember feeling that he was just so proud of what we've accomplished as a team. Team Canada was also an honor. I was able to make the team multiple years, and it was, again, an open tryout. Some of the highlights that I can remember would be beating the U.S. And when we won, we just kind of had to shrug it off. We just walk off like that's just another day, another game, no big deal. But inside we were just like, yes, we got it. To be inducted to the Hall of Fame is an honor, and it just shows how much of an impact the community has had on me and my success. I couldn't be here without the people that supported me, all the coaches from the start of time. Being inducted is just an extension of how much support I've had, how much people believed in me and what I could do, what I was capable of, the time that they dedicated, the patience. A lot of the coaches that I've had to have been patient because I needed a lot of development and support, but they believed in me and they constantly pushed me to be better.
Welcoming Korissa to the Windsor Essex County Sports Hall of Fame, Chairperson Chuck Smith. Ladies and gentlemen, Korissa Williams.
What a beautiful family you have here, Korissa. Wow. Amazing. Wow. All right. We are going to move forward with our next inductee, Luke Willson. Yes. It's that time. Luke Willson walked away from a promising baseball career to become the NFLer that we know and love today. In 2008, he played first base and batted cleanup for the Canadian Junior National Baseball team. He signed with the Toronto Blue Jays, but ultimately chose football over baseball. Willson earned a scholarship to play tight end at Rice University from 2009 to 2012. And after 4 solid seasons at Rice, the Seahawks selected the hardworking Canadian in the 5th round of the NFL draft. Willson ended up playing 8 seasons in the NFL, winning a Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks in his rookie season. We all here were so proud. And after 5 seasons in Seattle, Willson signed with his boyhood favorite, the Detroit Lions. Yeah. He later played for the Baltimore Ravens and re-signed with Seattle before retiring in 2020. But his ties to the NFL did not end there. Luke is undoubtedly a fan favorite wherever he goes. And he previously hosted a popular radio show in Seattle before now becoming a valued NFL analyst with TSN in Canada. Luke has even launched his own podcast and video show called Film Never Lies in partnership with TSN, where he brings his unique perspective on sports to the world. But let's hear from Luke on his induction.
Certainly helped having 2 older brothers, that were 22 months older than me. So just trying to compete with them when we were younger at whether it was sports or whatever we were doing. At high school, it was track and field, it was baseball, and then, even back to high school, the first couple of years I'm playing football and AAA hockey. Most people that might watch this video have some sort of connection to my dad. Played a lot of the baseball years of the Micmacs and the Windsor Chiefs. I also played, football at the university. My uncle was a big-time basketball player at Assumption, got a full ride to U of D. I go to a camp up in the Waterloo area, and Rice University's coaches are there. His coach pulls me aside and says, hey, we want to see some film. I don't know the first thing about getting recruited, and Coach Mills just selflessly helped out a ton. Do I get the full ride if I don't have the Ravens film? When I got the call for the Blue Jays, and they were like, hey, would you, consider stopping to play football? But it also was just common sense where I'm like, I'm gonna stop playing a game I love where I think I can be pro in 6 months, 7 months, or try and chase another dream to be pro in 6 years, you know, the decision was pretty easy at that point. When I got down to Rice University, I was, I think, a pretty naive 18-year-old. Our last year we went 7-6 and won kind of a subpar bowl game. So I guess there's a little good story at the end. If you would have told me on draft day to rank teams that were going to draft me from 1 to 32, I would have probably put Seattle at either 30, 31, or 32. You know, going back to the draft, after kind of the dust had settled, I remember my dad said to me, I was on a front lot in the South, he goes, Luke, Seattle's pretty good. Like, imagine you guys win the Super Bowl next year. I'm like, yeah, that'd be crazy. But that team, you know, I think beyond the Super Bowl, what I cherished the most about it was just like how it operated. You know, it was the most cutthroat, competitive environment I've ever been in. But at the same time, like somewhat supportive, like guys care about each other. We go to New York to play Denver, and we're in the hotel lobby Saturday night, sitting with my mom and dad, and you know, Peyton Manning had the #1 offense in history of the NFL. Denver was, you know, Denver. It's kind of the media vibe, and my dad would say, you know, what are you thinking? How do you kind of feel tomorrow? I said, Dad, I swear to you, this game's not gonna be close. And then I guess the last thing I'll say with the Super Bowl was, I think my favorite moment was after the game, you get 2 people are allowed down the field. So I had my mom and dad all there. And it was just kind of a moment for me, like without them, I'm not even close to being able to accomplish this. So it was just like a cool moment to like, you know, share with them. That Lions year was, it was great in some sense, and you know, personally ended up probably not the best. I loved the Lions as a kid. I dressed up as Barry Sanders. I want to say twice for Halloween. To be a Lion was amazing, and something to this day that I still like cherish. And going into like games, I used to think like, I wonder how many Windsor like kids are here. Again, the idea for me that like kids here might have been at one of those games that year, and to have their parents be like, you know, that kid was from LaSalle, is something that I like cherish. Now the flip side of that was it was the biggest bloodbath year of all time. So when I retired a couple years later, that's when a different marketing guy had reached out to TSN, and they had kind of been in touch throughout the years. And it was like, hey, like, so we want to do some remote stuff. And yeah, sure. So that was just once a week, you know, and that was kind of the test run. And then, you know, I think I got a little more comfortable with it. And I'm really enjoying it now, like kind of developed a little niche there, met a lot of great people, and it's been a lot of fun. When I think about the Windsor County Sports Hall of Fame, like, yeah, I'm very grateful. But I guess where I come from is like the people in the community, you know, and I hope I've made them proud, but are just as important in my journey as some of the things I've done. And it's like, that's kind of what led to my success. I think that at some point, everyone's athletic, you know, everyone's talented. And it's like, what kind of gives you that extra, you know, inch, whatever the cliche is, to get over the edge? And to me, it's my hometown. Yes, my name will be on the plaque, but there's a lot of people that, you know, teammates, rivals, coaches, that have, you know, taken part in that story.
We once again welcome Pete Cusimano to present Luke with this very well-earned induction into the Windsor Essex Sports Hall of Fame.
Well, that takes care of the athletes portion of this fantastic gala. We'll have the builders category coming up, but first, we like to pay tribute to a lot of sponsors who supported us to ensure that this gala goes off without a hitch. First of all, we've heard the term, you're going to get your roses, and all 10 inductees have a beautiful centerpiece that was provided by the Little Pedal Truck. So if you have a centerpiece at your table, please feel free to bring it home with you and enjoy the gala for just a little while longer. We also have some fantastic businesses and sponsors who have made the 2025 Windsor Essex County Sports Hall of Fame possible. So this year's gala is brought to you by the City of Windsor, Chuck Roy of Caldwell Banker Realty, Mary Brennigan of Brennigan Physiotherapy, North Star Cheer, AM 800, the information station, Eddie Kadri of Kadri Law, Banna, and it's also brought to you by Teppermans of Windsor, the Penalty Box Restaurant, home of the original and delicious Chicken Delight. Hope I got that right, Beller. Walkerville Brewery, All-Star Gaming Center, the Dallas Cowboys, and Rice University. So a big hand for all the sponsors at our 2025 Gala. And we have saved one sponsor for last, and it's off to Tori to introduce the final sponsor of tonight's gala and our final 3 awards. Tori?
We would like to thank one more sponsor who's contributed majorly to the success of the evening, the Law Office of Kenneth Marley. With over 35 years of experience representing clients in Windsor, Chatham, and Sarnia, Mr. Marley is one of the most trusted names in criminal defense law in our area. Thank you to Mr. Marley hugely for your support over the years for the Hall of Fame and for helping to celebrate our final 3 awards, the Builders.
Last year we inducted Steve Ott. And there's one person that knows a thing or two about Mr. Ott's career. Matter of fact, he's been the soundtrack of the Windsor Spitfires on the radio for many decades. It is the one and only, the man they call Beller, Steve Bell. This is a voice that everyone can recognize when they turn on the Spitz games. Bell took over as the play-by-play announcer for the Spitz game from former AM 800 sports director Dave Quinn, or as they used to call him, Quinner, in the fall of 1987. With Bell's own career, starting as an evening DJ in Sudbury in March of 1980, just 6 months later, he was hired by AM 800 in Windsor. He served as the station's sports director until restructuring eliminated that position in 2021. But the Spitz ownership was quick to ensure that he would not be silenced as their own play-by-play announcer. Over the years, Steve has had the privilege of calling some incredible local talent who has advanced into the NHL, just like Steve Ott. His genuine enthusiasm for the game and the players allowed him to coax some thoughtful answers out of nervous 16-year-olds in pre- or post-game interviews. And as his broadcast partner today, Manny Pava, would say, 6,000 of their friends or beyond would always rely on every word Beller says, either at the WFCU Center or on the road. And as expected, Beller is always ready to lend his voice to any and all community initiative he can, and he is an amazing storyteller. So let's hear the tale of the man they call Beller.
Basically, getting into sports was by default. It was an accident. I loved all sports. I played all sports, and I was equally inadequate at all of them. So really, not much of an athlete. I tried hard, and as for becoming a sportscaster, it was by default. The first job out of college was at CKSO in Sudbury, and I was there less than 6 months. Really, the story to come to Windsor. One of my best friends at college, another guy I went to college with, Murray Brookshaw. Murray's first job was at 580 CKWW. He recorded a little bit of my show in Sudbury, and when he came back here, he played it to the boss, Kevin McGowan. I was making $149 a week in Sudbury, and he said, kid, I'll give you, how's 300? I'm horrible at math. But 300's better than 149. Labor Day weekend 1980, I moved to Windsor. Really didn't know anybody down here other than Murray. And I thought, stay here maybe a couple of years. And 45 years later, you can't get rid of me. I absolutely love Windsor, Essex, and so fortunate that I've been able to make my career here. Starting my career, I was always told to volunteer at everything. If you don't get paid, don't worry about it. So even at the radio station, whether it was to help out in terms of sports, the legendary Dave Quinn, announcer for the Spitz, if he needed somebody to do an intermission or go cover a baseball game in the summer. So it was kind of by default. And when Dave left Windsor to move to Toronto in the mid-'80s, I had already had my foot in the door, and that's where the sport started. But initially, I came here as an on-air personality or as a DJ on, at that time, 580 CKWW. I've covered everything, being this close to Detroit, in a major U.S. city. I think the things that brought the most joy would be being that, and I would announce it on the radio, you are looking live at a sold-out Carmelita Hall on the campus of St. Anne High School here in Tecumseh, over at Herman, or going to a high school football game. I mean, the local things are really the things that meant the most. My sisters remind me, Bonnie, Linda, Heather, I have 3 older sisters. I was likely 7 or 8, 9 years old, and I would have a button, some large buttons, and there was kind of an off room in our house, and I would be doing, here's Keon over to Bob Pulford, 8, 9 years old, never thinking I'm gonna have a career doing play-by-play hockey or anything, and I would hit the button. The bottom of the door was all chipped, the paint was chipped off it, and my sister was, Mom, look what he's doing. He's, oh, just let him be, he's having fun. I did my first play-by-play game, I think it was 1985, in North Bay, and I still remember number. And back in the day, there's no names on the jerseys, just a number, so you have to memorize, you know, everybody's name and number, and it's something that I was fortunate enough to do for many years and still love. To see the kids come in as a skinny 16-year-old, and a kid like Wyatt Johnston just recently signed a nice little contract with $8.2 million a year, U.S., to see them a few years later be so successful, it's just something I love to do. So just being around the team, I think that's part of it. And it goes with any of the guys. It's the camaraderie of being around a group of guys like that. My immediate family here, my wife Lori, the best part about being on the road is coming home to my wife, my stepson Matt, his wife Denise, the rabbit, the bean, and the peanut. But know what? They don't want me to say that anymore because now they're all grown up. But Avery, Lila, and Bryn, my granddaughters, the love of my life, and family, close friends, that means everything. What the hell am I doing in the Hall of Fame? The class I'm going in with has world champion boxer, 2 fellas that played, I think the first time I interviewed Tyrone was after a basketball game, actually. A couple of guys that played football. Oh, in the National Football League, a Super Bowl champion. A guy that played, when I was a kid, I loved for the Dallas Cowboys. 3 Olympians. And for me, to be going into the Windsor Essex County Sports Hall of Fame with people like that, for me in sports, I'm it was a very small part, and it is overwhelming and humbling, and I'm very appreciative.
The kid from Kincardine is finally in. Welcoming Steve to the Windsor Essex County Sports Hall of Fame, one of our board members and organizers of this year's gala, Emily Marley. Ladies and gentlemen, Beller Steve Bell.
All right. We are going to move over to a football official being inducted tonight. Bruce Carter has had such a notable career as a local football official. It's almost impossible to believe everything he has done. Bruce has blown the whistle on more football players than any referee in history in the sport in Windsor, Essex. He has been a member of the Windsor District Football Officials Association for the past 46 years and has refereed more high school playoff and championship games than any other official in the association's history. He first pulled on those stripes in 1978 and has since worked 39 champions at the local, regional, and provincial levels. In 2000, Bruce became just the second Windsor area official selected to work in the Canadian Football League. Over the next 7 years, he worked 5 playoff games and the Grey Cup final in 2004 in Ottawa. Among Canadian officials, he is one of the select few that can list the Grey Cup, the Vanier Cup, the Mitchell Bowl, the Churchill Bowl, Yates Cup, and the CJFL Championship on his resume. With all of those incredible accomplishments, he is also dedicated to mentoring the next generation of officials during his 10-year tenure as the WDFOA's referee-in-chief. Truly, Bruce is one of the most dedicated and accomplished local football referees in Windsor, Essex. Do not just take our word for it, though. We're going to hear from Bruce himself.
I never played football until I actually went to Herman in grade 9th. And then that's when my career started, was playing football. And actually was playing for people like Godfrey Janice, Harry Lumley. That's how I started. I really didn't have a lot of career playing sports, just good enough to play, but not good enough to excel in the sport. For officiating would be the late Jack Schroeder. He was my main mentor. He was the person that kept me going in football. Back then we had to write exam to get into the OUA, the Ontario University Association, Football Association, and for the officials. But I wrote for 4 years, and I thought, well, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was, or they just didn't need officials. And Jack pushed me. He says, no, you're going to go back and you're going to write one more year. So I wrote the year, and all of a sudden I got the call, and I started officiating back in 19, I think it was 94, I got onto the thing. But when I first went from the OUA to the CFL, story behind that, I did the Churchill Bowl in Hamilton in 2000. And when I got off the field, there was my referee chief back then was Ken Green. And he said to me after the game, we're talking, that he says, here's an envelope, fill that out. I had no idea what he was talking about. So I opened it up, and it was an application for the CFL. Alma Coleman was one of my mentor for the CFL. He took me under his wing when I went to camp the first camp in Winnipeg. He was the one I got roomed with. Ever since that day, all my time I was there, he was really the person that got me through some of the CFL situations. The Grey Cup was probably it is the most exciting game and highest game to officiate in Canada. So in 2004, I did the Grey Cup in Ottawa with Toronto was playing BC at the time, the game. It was a very exciting game that both coaches were highly respected at that time, and both quarterbacks like Damon Allen and Dave Dickerson. It was very, very exciting. I think the game was well officiated, and overall we were pleased when we come off the field. Because sometimes the kids, and the wife, there was a little bit of sacrifice on their part because I was gone doing these games all the time, and weekends seemed to be neglected for them. But without their backing, I wouldn't be sitting here. I'm humbled and honored to become a member of the Hall of Fame. It's the great athletes, the officials, the builders, the coaches that have preceded me, that I could sit here and thank and acknowledge that I've come into an organization that is very well for this community, helps out tremendously.
Presenting Bruce Carter with his Windsor Essex County Sports Hall of Fame induction is one of our other members of the board, Godfrey Janice.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the final builder of our class of 2025. And let me point this out too. There are three common things about the St. Clair Saints: the Sportsplex, Griff, and women's head coach, Andy Kiss. And success has followed the coaching career of Andy regardless of the skill level of the basketball player. Andy won an Ontario Federation of School Athletic Association gold medal as a member of the Herman Green Griffins in 1980, and in 2007, he coached the senior girls St. Anne's Saints to OFSA gold. He was honored as the Ontario High School Coach of the Year following that fantastic season with St. Anne's. And since 2013, Andy has served as the head coach of the St. Clair Saints. And he has been coaching and molding a talented mix of local and out-of-town players into champions ever since. Just listen to these names that he has coached over the years. You think of Logan and Jana Kucera, Jade Lyons, Tori Hanser, and then, of course, we talk about the OCAA's all-time scorer in Shannon Kennedy. He's led the Saints to the OCAA postseason 4 times so far, bringing home 3 silver medals and 1 bronze. And I do want to point out, too, the last decade, there were the Saints and there were the Humber Hawks, and they reigned supreme. But there were a small number of teams that would deny the Hawks from taking the OCAA championship, and Andy and the Saints did that in the semifinals in 2020. That is a huge accomplishment. Now, his hard work and dedication earned him the OCAA Coach of the Year in 2024. And being a player himself for many years and having a standout career during that time, it has undoubtedly helped him become the successful coach he is today. This is a love story about basketball, and this story is sealed with a kiss. Here's a look at the career of Andy Kiss.
I grew up on Westcott Road, just south of Tecumseh, and we had a neighborhood that was chock full of young guys. And so we never had a problem playing a game of road hockey. We'd play small-sided basketball, like 3-on-3. We even played pickup hardball at the park. Well, I'd have to start with my mom and dad, Mike and Mary Kiss. My dad escaped Hungary in 1949. I learned about hard work from my dad. My first basketball coach ever, Most Precious Blood Elementary School in Windsor, Ken Bondi. I developed a real love for basketball through him. All the coaches I've had over time have had influence on me. All of them. I mean, from Ken Bondi, junior boys at Herman, Rick Bauer, Godfrey Janice, of course, senior boys, Chris McCaffrey, and I'll be talking quite a bit about Coach McCaff. On to university level, Dick Parfit at Central Michigan, and then when I came back to Windsor, Doc Thomas, Nick Grabowski. Coach McCaff is the one who motivated me to want to become a coach. More than anything else, the thing that resonates with me about Coach McCaff is how much he loved this. Like that never leaves you. I coached for 2 years at Herman Junior Boys, 87, 88, 88, 89. I got my teaching gig at St. Anne's. I had been coaching junior boys. We had some success. And then the senior girls coach at the time, Dave Taylor, he just didn't want to do it anymore. He was looking for somebody to take it over. And that's when I started coaching the girls. And then a young lady named Brittany Henderson showed up at St. Anne's. Brittany was arguably the best player I ever coached. And it was with that group that we crossed the threshold to becoming a provincial program. There was a group there we'd been to OFSA with in Hamilton, and that was the year we won silver. It was 2006. In 2007, the season had started. We had some rough stretches along the way. We brought in some new players, so we had to integrate them in our system. So we ended up winning that game, the gold medal match. We celebrated the gold medal on our floor at our brand new school in our brand new gym. Andrea played for me right away in grade 9. She was about 6 foot tall, so she could handle it. 2012 season was our last FAFSA medal, so we won silver, then gold, then bronze. 2012 we achieved bronze medal. Lost to Kia Nurse in the semifinal, so we won 7 WECSHOFs in a row in a stretch between, I believe, 2000, so it would have to have been 2006 to 2012. That would probably make 7. Ryan moved up, so I moved over to senior boys. You know, we had some success. We won WECSA title with the guys. I would be remiss to not mention Roger Musso. Moose was my longtime assistant at St. Anne's. I'd be even going to call him an associate at St. Anne's and at St. Clair as well. So Roger was with me for 17 years. Didn't want to mention Moose because he was very important in my career as a coach. Eventually, Ted contacted me about, what do you think about coming to the college to coach? We went to 3 consecutive gold medal matches with St. Clair, and we came up short each time. 3 consecutive silver medals at the provincial level with St. Clair College. But your biggest support, hands down, is your family. I would be at tournaments with St. Anne's on weekends, and for Andrea, Ryan, and Mitch, Dad wasn't home on weekends. My awesome, strongly independent wife, Heather, I never had an issue with it. Without a supportive family, and especially my wife, Heather, it just would not have worked. To be included with the athletes and builders that make up the Hall of Fame today, along with the 2025 class that's entering it, really is a tremendous honor. I'm going in as a builder, and I want to bring the whole house with me. All these people that have influenced me and been a part of it, and all these players that I've been blessed to coach.
And welcoming Andy to the Windsor Essex County Sports Hall of Fame, board member Joe Idone. Ladies and gentlemen, Andy Kiss.
All right, congratulations to all of the 2025 Windsor Essex County Sports Hall of Fame inductees. Can we hear it for our new class?
Definitely deserve it.
Once again, we would like to thank all of the amazing sponsors. We would like to thank the staff here at Chicharo Club. Thank you for an amazing evening. We also want to thank all of you for being a great crowd during our technical difficulties and our next door drumming. So thank you to you guys. You guys did amazing. And also, we would like to thank everybody on the board. Of course, Chuck, Anthony, everybody, Emily, Aaron, my lovely co-host here. It has been an honor being one of the co-hosts. We can't wait for next year.
Yeah, she did a terrific job. Ladies and gentlemen, Tori Roovers. You could catch her on the dial weekday mornings, Jay and Tori in the mornings on Mix 96.7. And you'll hear me down the road, whether it's Express, Lancers, and whatnot. But I always look forward to this night. I always am amazed at the talent that goes into the Hall of Fame, whether if it's a builder or an athlete. You learn a lot from them. And for the future generations, they get to learn about it too. So we hope you were able to enjoy this evening. We look forward to having you aboard for our Hall of Fame Gala next year. For more information, be sure to check out our social media pages for the announcement of the Gala dates. It's been an honor and a privilege to be among you and the new class of 2025. So on behalf of the Windsor Essex County Sports Hall of Fame, we thank you. And until next year, for Tori Roovers, the outstanding board members of the Windsor Essex County Sports Hall of Fame, the great folks at the Caboto Club, our band, to each and every one of you, I got to remind you, there's plenty of good sports out there, so you be one too. This be Aaron Sanders saying so long from the Rose City. Good night.
Absolutely.
God bless you.